It's the Best Damn Sports Show podcast with your hosts, Jason Cahill and Bernie Kim.
Thanks, Chuck D. Welcome to the Best Damn Sports Show podcast. I'm Jason Cahill.
And I'm Bernie.
Hey, Bernie, we have a huge show today.
Some would call it a big show.
Some would call it a big show. We've been talking about this for 2 weeks now. We knew he was going to be a guest on today's show, and he's sitting right across from us.
And I'm a little intimidated.
There is a 7-foot, 450-pound man sitting directly across from us, Bernie.
Yes.
Let's get right to it.
Let's do it.
Big show. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I just want to say, first of all, it's an honor to be on your show. And I'm just flattered that you guys even want to talk to me.
Oh, well, thanks. You're the first person that's actually said it's an honor to be on the show, so we definitely appreciate that. So lots of wrestling stuff to cover.
Sure.
I think the first thing that I want to know, I heard the story about how you got discovered, and correct me if I'm wrong, it has something to do with Danny Bonaduce, Hulk Hogan, and a guy who runs a karaoke empire. But
yeah.
Tell us how it was you got discovered.
Well, to make the story make sense, I was playing basketball at the University of Wichita State. Played for Mike Cohen. They had fired Mike Cohen halfway through the season. There were rumors they were trying to bring in Jimmy Valvano as a coach, but I guess the cancer thing, unfortunately made it unable for him to get there. They brought in Scott Thompson out of Rice. You spend your high school career getting recruited by a coach that you learn to really like and appreciate his style with you. And Coach Cohen with me at the time I got limited play time at Wichita State, but he was really building me for my last 2 years and kind of nursing me along. I was an outstanding high school athlete, but really hadn't really run an organized offense in basketball. It was more I hung out in the low paint and did whatever I wanted to. When you get to college level, of course, you've got to run offenses and do a lot more work. So he was giving me time to adjust because there were a lot of people that were really looking at me. So they fired Coach Cohen. Father passed away. Kind of lost my drive or interest. Bounced around, did several odd jobs. I worked in a strip club, which wasn't a bad job, and did a lot of things. And I got a job offer from a friend of mine named John Lundquist, who was a executive vice president with Rent-A-Center, which was based in Wichita, and they had a karaoke division that they sold out a lot of their equipment and disbanded the division. And there was a guy from Chicago named Jim Strouser, and Jim gave me a job loading equipment. And then I made a trip back to Chicago with him in the semi to dump off all this equipment that he bought for pennies on the dollar. And I basically had nothing going for me in my life at the time. I lived in an apartment that an ex-girlfriend's grandmother lived in that had, 3 steps. I was in the kitchen, I was in the bathroom, I was in the living room. My cable was hot wired, my electric was hot wired, my phone was hot wired. I used to tell people, if somebody picks up on the other end of the line, hang up, because it's not my line. And Jim was talking to me. He's like, well, what do you want to do? And I says, I don't know. He says, maybe we'll get you a tryout with the Bears to play football, because I was like 22 at the time and really young and full of vigor. And I said, that would be fine, but, I've always been a wrestling fan. I'd like to give that a shot, because even the guys that get beat up, they got to make some kind of money, and I didn't really know anything about the interworkings of sports entertainment. So it was just a freak encounter. Jim and his karaoke company, it was Jesco Karaoke out of Chicago, was doing a thing where they were having people come in and sing karaoke on the morning drive with Danny Bonaduce. So it was like American Idol before American Idol. And Danny Bonaduce was so very cool to me and trying to help me get going, do something. He's like, God, you got to do something. You're so big. He had a charity basketball game at halftime at a Chicago Wolves CBA team. So he says, I'm playing against Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart, and Mr. T will be there. And, you used to play college basketball, so you'll be my secret weapon. So I go to the Chicago Wolves game, and I'm walking through the crowd, and I see Hulk Hogan from a distance, and I was so impressed by, this is a guy I grew up watching. I looked at Jimmy, I said, oh my God, Hulk Hogan's bigger than me. And my buddy Jimmy was typical Chicago, very, very callous. He goes, dude, what are you, nuts? You're a foot taller than him. He just very blank about it. And I met Hulk very briefly. He was very cool. And then, Danny brought me on the court. I was his secret weapon, and I remember in front of, the 12 or 13,000 people there for the game, I was doing pretty well on the court against Hogan, he pulled my shorts down. So, Hulk has quite the sense of humor, quite the ribber, as we call in our business. And then I probably did, after the game, everybody shook hands. It was real good. There was a lot of kids involved, and it was a really good feeling to be out there with the kids. You kind of let the kids be the star, but Hulk could see right away that I was an athlete. So we go to the back, and I'm talking to Hulk, and, my buddy Jimmy says, hey, he does a great impersonation of you. So Hulk's like, really? Let me hear it. So, which now that I've been in the business, there's so many wrestlers that have people do impersonations of them. It's probably not a smart thing to do if you want to get in the business, but luckily Hulk was a gracious host. And so I said, let me tell you something, brother. I've been to the top of the mountain, dude. So what you going to do when the largest arms in the world come for you, brother? And he just started laughing. He says, you got a big dollar sign written on your forehead. And I said, well, please show it to me because I'm broke. And then it started some negotiations with WCW and Eric Bischoff, and Ric Flair was the booker at the time. And we went back and forth on some things, and finally they gave me a tremendous deal that was phenomenal for me. I don't think my father made that much money in his lifetime. I couldn't imagine that there was this much money out there, and this was only, pretty much the start of what the potential was to make in this industry. And I trained for 6 months at the power plant. I trained under Jody Hamilton, Terry Taylor, and actually Paul Levesque, which you actually know as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Mm-hmm. And those guys worked out with me a lot. And 6 months later, I wrestled Hulk Hogan at Halloween Havoc because Hulk needed an opponent, and they made me up to be Andre the Giant's son, and I walked away with the WCW Championship my first match. So
That's an unbelievable story.
It's pretty much a clear-cut story then, It's the typical wrestling story then, right?
No, it wasn't the typical wrestling story. It was funny. I got thrown so fast in the fire. And the thing about wrestling is nowadays, especially with the WWE, they've gone through great extents to recruit, athletes, amateur wrestlers, football players, and they have a great facility in Tampa, Florida Championship Wrestling. It's FCW. It's run by Steve Kern and Dr. Tom, and it's like an Olympic training center down there. They've got 4 or 5 rings. They've got a small TV studio. I mean, the training for these kids down there is just incredible. And usually once a week there's some WWE superstar, it'd be myself or Undertaker or Triple H or somebody that knows the inner workings of our company and our TV and how Vince likes things done and how Kevin Dunn wants things done, that goes down there and gives their expertise. When I started, I really didn't have that. I had some basic ring training, and then I was in the frying pan with some of the biggest superstars ever: Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Sting, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man. I mean, I was right in the mix with it. And it was different because back then there weren't a lot of guys breaking into the business right away. I mean, usually you would have to work some small independent territories for 4 or 5 years, learn your craft, then you get a tryout, and then maybe they do something with you. I mean, for me, it was a blessing and a curse because they basically strapped a rocket to my ASS and shot me to the moon. So I really didn't get the inside training that I wanted to get. But
you mentioned you were a wrestling fan growing up. Who are some of the guys that you idolized?
Idolized growing up, I was a huge Ric Flair fan. I mean, the first time I met Ric Flair in Chicago, because they had a TV there a couple of nights later after the game, Hulk asked me to come by and meet everyone. And the first time I met Ric Flair, I had to go outside and catch my breath because I almost fainted. I mean, I remember playing basketball as a kid in high school, and I would talk trash in the low paint with the other center that I was playing against, banging around against. I'd say, in order to be the man, you've got to beat the man. And if I dunked, I would strut. And, if I made a great shot, I'd woo. I mean, I was already a showboat to the point of almost being arrogant for high school athletics. But, it was, in all actuality, it was the inner wrestler dying to come out and find a place to voice itself.
Are the guys that you looked up to when you broke in, were they good about helping you develop, or is it very competitive and they're trying to keep you down?
No, it's a very, very competitive business, but I have to say the guys that I look to for advice were gracious enough to be very giving and very kind. I owe a lot of respect to Arn Anderson and Ric Flair and Hulk himself. Hulk was always real good about teaching me the business end of sports entertainment, of knowing what you're worth, getting the dollar that you're worth, working your character and you know, some of the more intricate parts of the day-to-day business came from, you know, like Arn and Ric Flair, as far as, you know, psychology, things I should do, things I shouldn't do, stuff like that. So I had guys that were willing to help in WCW, because it was pretty easy in WCW. You worked for Turner, you had a guaranteed paycheck that came in every week. There wasn't a hustling for position on the card, because, you know, it's different in WWE. In WWE, it's much more competitive. You know, Vince rewards hard work and success through, you know, I mean, you get paid more if you do better. I mean, you know, WCW, it really didn't matter. You know, if you were on the first match or the last match, you pretty much got paid whatever you negotiated, which was nice. And then, you know, when I left WCW, I saw a lot of problems with WCW, and Hulk told me like a year before my deal ended, he says, look, brother, you need to get out of here and get up to Vince, because Vince will help make you a star. And even though they've had a little bit of a torrid relationship over the years, back and forth and whatnot, but they both understand business. And, you know, I went up to WWE, and, boy, I was thrown in the Shark Tank right off the bat. I couldn't believe how extremely competitive it was, and how incredible the superstars were compared to some of the guys that have already worked hard, already been established, had a good paycheck, really didn't push things that hard. When I got to WWE, it was totally different. It was every show, every night mattered. Everything in the ring mattered. Every angle mattered. Every chance to do media, every chance to do anything mattered, because you increased your stock and your status by, you know, continuing to build upon doing things well. I mean, I remember getting around The Rock. I mean, I'd never seen anything like, you know, Dwayne Johnson. It was just, here's this guy, young, charismatic. He was younger than me, and he was just phenomenal on the microphone. I mean, our shows used to be over, and Rock would entertain the fans for half hour, 45 minutes after the show was over, and no one would leave. He had that ability, like a conductor of an orchestra. The way he made the fans just entertained him and captivated him, and, you know, the way Stone Cold did business. You know, Stone Cold was an incredible entity to see the way he handled the crowd and the way he handled business. I mean, he was involved with every end of the business, from his marketing, merchandise, appearances. There's a story. Stone Cold was doing a book signing when his book came out, you know, and they had like 600 copies of his book they wanted him to sign. And the rep that was with him was like, oh, Steve, I won't make you stay here and sign these books, you know. Steve's like, every book I sign is a book sold. I'll stay and sign every one of them. I mean, Steve had that three-dimensional thinking to think ahead on things. You know, this might not be something I want to do now, but it's going to help me later. And I learned a lot from those guys. Well,
you were talking about charisma with The Rock. The thing I noticed about you early on is they didn't want to showcase your charisma, but it came out because you're a very charismatic guy, you're a very entertaining guy. I mean, when did you have to prove, you know, to the heads that you're more than just a hulking individual and you can work the mic a little?
I think my career is especially when I came to WWE, because I was so one-dimensional in WCW. I was the giant, I crush things, you know. When I came to WWE, even the name The Big Show, you know, Vince walks, because I first came in, I was Paul Wight, and Vince walks by me one day with his, you know, the charisma that guy sports is unbelievable all the time. And Vince walks by me, how's The Big Show doing today? I said, good, I guess. Who the hell's The Big Show? He goes, you're The Big Show. You can walk, you can talk, you can do it all. You're The Big Show. And that was the end of that conversation. So, okay, they're calling me The Big Show. I didn't even understand what kind of a name The Big Show is, but, you know, Vince is the gift that Vince has that a lot of people don't understand is he has a gift of vision, of seeing, you know, the potential in everything, you know. And the biggest problem that we had with me, I think, in WWE was trying to find something that makes sense for me, because I am lucky enough and cursed enough. I'm lucky enough that I can do anything, you know, but it's a curse because the public's perception of a giant is sort of one-dimensional. They're not used to someone, you know, my size with having quick wit, if I can say it, quick wit, quick wit, or great comedy timing and stuff like that, you know, and it was difficult to find the right situations, because there were a lot of people that I had to work with that were very conventional and stuck in the mud, and he shouldn't be doing that. He should just be, squashing babies and and being a killer. And then then there's the other side. I was like, yeah, but he's so athletic. He can do a nip up. He can do this. He can do a drop kick off the top. And then the other side's like, well, he shouldn't do that just because he can, because it takes away from the smaller guys. So for me, it was a constant battle, because some of the funny things that I did was very entertaining, but it took away from the mystique of, like, when you first meet me. So it was hard to try to find a happy medium. And I think over the years we've experimented with me being angry, with me being funny, with the whole deal. And now we've kind of molded this Big Show character now is like, yeah, okay, we know he's witty, we know he can be funny, but we also know that if he gets in a bad mood, he can break stuff that most humans can't. So we've kind of gradually gone into it, and Vince has gone out of his way to find some outside projects for me to get that funny side, that creative side out.
You mentioned your athleticism a little while ago. I remember back in the day, early on, WCW days, maybe, beginning when you were first in the WWF, you went top rope a lot.
Yeah.
You don't do that anymore.
I don't do that. I did a moonsault in Japan, which is the fabled Loch Ness monster sighting in our industry. There's no way in hell I'd try to do a moonsault now. I know the consequences if I miss it, and I got a pretty good life now. I'm good. But when I was younger, I was a little more reckless, and I remember doing a moonsault in Japan, and by the time I got back to my hotel room, Hulk was calling me from the States. He heard about it that fast. And Hulk was always very direct when he talked to me. He was like, brother, have you lost your damn mind? And I'm like, what do you mean? He says, brother, don't ever go to that top rope again. He says, it's a short lifespan. Stay off the top rope, keep your feet on the ground. So that was the end of the moonsault days. And as I got older, I started to see, because the drop kicks off the top and stuff were cool, but it didn't apply to what I needed to get done. My thing is people are excited to see a 7-foot, 450 or 500-pound guy do a drop kick off the top. But, unless the guy on the other end of the receiving end of it's not in intensive care and disappears forever, it takes away from the mystique of our business. So,
I wanted to ask, I know there's a professional respect that you have with your opponents,
right?
Because you're all shooting for the same thing. But I know you can't have liked every one of your opponents. Have you ever meant something more and maybe given something more?
What? I think that's the thing that people get confused sometimes. Just like any person works in any job, there are people you work with you just don't like. Your personalities rub wrong. But I think it's a testament to our industry. You could have two guys that absolutely hate each other in the back. For whatever the reasons are, they dated the same girl, or one got a better payday than the other one, or whatever the reason is, you just don't like the way the guy looks. But you'll still go out there and put on, what is best for our crowd and what is best for our company, and that's one heck of a show. I've never intentionally, tried to plow somebody or stiff them or something. I have, but I haven't done it on purpose. There wasn't any malicious intent in it. Sometimes things happen, but because this is a job that we don't just work one night a week on TV. We're 270 nights a year all around the world, and most all of us understand that we're working a very difficult job that a lot of people can't do, and we're trying to put on the best show that we can and also make money for our families.
That being said, how long do you think you can keep up with this schedule? It's such a grind.
Well, I worked 12 years straight, and then I took a year off. I think the ECW run completely tore me apart. I was very unhealthy. I want to say I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I had 2 herniated discs in my back, and I'm doing hardcore matches with guys like RVD and Sabu and Tommy Dreamer, and guys that just are totally reckless abandon in their type of match psychology, which ECW is not known for its grappling, showcase. It's more like tables and chairs and trash cans and thumbtacks and stuff like that. It's very, very hard on your body. And I was burnt out. 270, 280 days a year for 12 years straight. I was just burnt out. And I told Vince, look, I'm taking a year off. I need time away. And I actually went down to Miami and started hanging out with Hulk and got into doing some boxing for more or less for fitness and just to do something totally different. And I got into boxing, lost over 100 pounds doing the boxing, and I quit smoking, and cleaned up a lot of things in my life that needed to be cleaned up. And then as I was doing the boxing, Hulk and I were talking about maybe doing that professionally. And then the more I got into boxing, it was, I was 36, 35 years old. It's kind of hard to start a new career in an industry that's full of young whippersnappers that have been doing it since I could walk, and it was hard to get opponents booked that had the same experience that I did. And plus, to go into a boxing career on a fast track would be 2 years. So by the time I got a title shot that was really worth some money, I'd be 38, 39 years old. And I really saw the writing on the wall on that. Had I started doing it when I was in my 20s, I probably would have had a lot of success with it and loved it. I do have fast hands. I do have a good chin. I do have good mobility in the ring, but for me, I started really missing the guys in the locker room. I started missing working for Vince. I mean, Vince is a very demanding boss to have because he's demanding on himself. I mean, in all the years I've known Vince, I've never seen him take a nap. I mean, we've flown overseas to do shows for the troops and support them. And, you're 17 hours of military transport. Vince has got his face in a book or face in paperwork with his glasses on. I've never seen the guy sleep. I mean, he is just such a workaholic that he almost infects you to work harder yourself. You know what I mean? He kind of leads by example kind of a thing, So, and I started missing that because it's really hard after being around an environment of such professionalism and such drive to do better every day on what you did last week, that you get in the real world, it's like, oh yeah, I'll call you, we'll do something next week, we'll do this. It's hard to function like that for me because I'm used to, if Vince tells me, yeah, Big Show, we're going to do this, it's done. There's no BS, there's no inconvenience or waste of my time, it's done. And I'm used to being an employee for Vince, that if Vince sends me out to do something, then we get it done, there's no BS, and we move on. So I think that was the biggest thing that threw me off that year that I was off was, just not having that kind of professionalism around you all the time where you have the talent relations staff, like, John Laurinaitis, Mark Carano, Kevin Hennessy, all these guys that work very hard to make everything that we do function properly. You don't have that in the real world. You don't. And I missed it. Plus, I got on my wife's nerves so bad for being home for an entire year that she was like, you need to find something to do and get out of my hair. So I
want to go back to the boxing just for 1 second.
Sure.
Did you spar against
Yeah,
guys?
I did actually. I had a great boxing trainer, a guy by the name of Artie Artwell out of Philadelphia, who had done some sparring with back in the day with Jimmy Young and Tim Witherspoon, Terrible Tim, Ali nicknamed him. And Artie was a 6'4", lean fighter. He's in his 50s now, but can still get in there and go rounds with guys. And I actually had a chance to spar against Oliver McCall a little bit. And Oliver and I had some pretty good sparring battles. I mean, there's pictures of Oliver with a fat lip, me with a black eye. And, he dropped that overhand right on me, the same one he knocked Lennox Lewis out with, and shook his head because, I had a good chin. And it's...
But no one ever knocked you down, right?
Oh, yeah, you get knocked down, yeah. I mean, we were doing some of the sparring. I remember one day I was sick and still sparring. We were doing round robins. I was doing 3 rounds with one guy, 3 rounds with another guy, and 3 rounds with another guy. And I had trapped this guy, TJ, in the corner in my later rounds, and I was tired. I mean, I'm not making excuses, but I had the runs, and I was tired. All right, so... But I had him trapped in the corner, and that was Artie and I's big thing was he'd yell, trap, trap, and that was to get him in the corner and pound him. And TJ was left-handed. I'd never fought a left-handed fighter before. And he spun out of the corner to my left, and I turned out of the corner with both hands down because it's a rookie mistake. Dropped me right on my ass. And it was that quick. And I got back up and finished the round, but it was amazing to know that, it's not the punch you see that gets you, it's the punch you don't see. I remember Artie told me all the time that, it takes 1 punch to win a fight, 1 punch to knock you out, and 1 punch to kill you. So it was very serious stuff when we were training. But the good thing about it is in boxing, it wasn't like, oh, you got knocked down, or oh, you got a black eye. It's like every boxer that's ever boxed and done anything has been knocked on his ass, has had a black eye, has had a fat lip, has had a busted nose. it's part of the dues you pay to do it. And I have so much respect for that sport and those guys, and I had a great time doing it.
And then years later at WrestleMania, you go up against Floyd Mayweather.
Not years later, it was months later. It was funny because I told him, I said, in all the time I spent this past year boxing, I never got my nose broke. Floyd, is such a tremendous fighter and promoter. This guy knows that people don't like him. He knows how to get under their skin. He knows how to make him buy pay-per-views. He knows how to make him boo him. But at the same time, you have to respect him when he gets in there and the skills that he has. And he's so fast. Granted, he's only 159 pounds. But when he broke my nose, I thought that he'd only hit me once. When I saw the tape back, he hit me 5 times. It was like, holy crap, is he fast? So, but I had a great time with that promotion. I really did. It was entertaining to talk trash with a personality like Floyd Mayweather and move forward to that and help get me going again.
That get you angry at all?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it did, because you're still under control. But I think I panicked Shane a little bit because Shane wasn't supposed to be on the show that night. When he broke my nose, I went after him in the ring, and it's more of a reflex action because the blood hit the back of my throat, and I knew he broke my nose. And I went after him, and, me trying to run down Floyd Mayweather, forget about it. I mean, this guy's got a rocket pack on his back. I'm fast for 450 pounds, but not fast enough to catch him when he doesn't want to be around. And I remember turning the corner to go after him, and I remember Shane coming out telling me, calm down, I know it hurts, but it was freaking awesome TV, relax, chill. And I'm sitting there, and I remember seeing the camera back. It was great TV, but in my mind, I was trying to calm down because it was like,
You look pretty pissed.
That was me pissed, because I remember my wife called me and left me a message. She said, babe, I know you're mad, but it looked great. And it's like, yeah, okay. I just had my face shattered. I'm not in a good mood about it. But it turned out really well, and, Floyd's manager, Leonard, and all of his crew and stuff like that, they did a fantastic job. I mean, it was a great event for our fans, and, Floyd, the guy that's made as much money as he has and is worth as much money as he is, to do the stuff that he did at WrestleMania. I mean, I put a whipping on him pretty good, and he stepped right up to the plate. I remember after the show, his grandma was just beating the snot out of me with a purse. Why'd you do that to my boy? I mean, it's okay. He's okay. I promise you. I know what I'm doing. But, yeah, it was a really, really good event. And, Floyd and Leonard and WWE really helped kick Big Show's career back off, coming back in the WWE.
Nice. Hey, we have a couple of emails from some listeners.
Oh, boy.
They knew you were coming on. They have a couple of questions. So David from New York says, if you were 5'11", 195, what would you be doing for a living?
I would be a recon Marine or a Navy SEAL, without a doubt. I love the military channel and love, the armed forces, and could think of nothing better that if I was the right size, I would be doing some kind of covert ops backing up our military.
Oh, that's a great answer. All right, Jeff from New Jersey says, if you could be in the cast of any show on TV, what would it be, and what role would you play?
Any show on TV. Wow, that's past or present show?
Take your pick.
Take my pick. Well,
I'm thinking sitcom.
Sitcom, yeah. I would have loved to have been on Married with Children as Ed O'Neill's brother somewhere. Plus, I used to think Peg Bundy was like the hottest thing on TV. I love the walk that Peg Bundy had. It was just awesome.
That little shimmy across.
Peg Bundy would have never complained about not having sex if I was married to her. Promise you that much. But I loved Married with Children. If I could do some kind of action series, I always liked Stargate Atlantis. I always liked that. And now on Heroes. I hope Heroes calls me and needs me for some kind of villain or something. I'd love to be on Heroes.
That'd be great. I asked you this off the air, but I'll ask you now. You did Saturday Night Live back in 2000. The Rock hosted. You were on the show, and I mean, wrestling fans all agree you stole the show.
Yeah, I stole it so well. The second time Rock did it, he didn't let me anywhere near it. No, in all sincerity, that was a testament to Dwayne, to Rock, and how he was so gracious enough to share that stage. And that was a big stage to be on Saturday Night Live, to share that stage with Triple H and Mick Foley and myself. I mean, that kind of comedy environment was just I love it. Will Ferrell was fantastic. I mean, everybody there was great. Chris Kattan, we started off the show, I had the thing where I was hiding the chair behind my back. That was my idea. Then Vince made me put it away. And then Chris Kattan was just standing back there, and I kind of moved my hands from the jump in my arms. He jumped right in my arms. I mean, those guys are so quick and so funny and just so happening with their comedy that they actually made me look good, and I had a blast. Hopefully soon I'll get a chance to do something worth warranting another guest appearance on Saturday Night Live.
Well, that's great. WWE Friday Night SmackDown premieres on My Network TV tonight.
Yeah,
So,
we're excited about it. Yeah,
what can wrestling fans expect
Well,
to see?
it's a big show tonight. I mean, we've got stars from Raw, stars from ECW, and stars from SmackDown kicking off this, this premiere on My Network. Vicky Guerrero was in our storyline was injured by The Undertaker, so the big show is in charge of SmackDown tonight. So it's my first little gig on TV of actually running things. So we'll see. It may not be as smooth as normal, but I'll get it under my belt. Don't worry.
All right, well, we look forward to that. The Big Show, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
We're done?
Well, hey, if you got another hour, we could sit here.
Brother, I got all the time in the world. You guys are great. Oh, I'm getting the boot already. Where's the guy with the big hook to stick in here and pull me out of it?
Big hook.
My wife always said I was long-winded. Now I know what she's talking about.
Well, thanks for joining us. And, hey, we hope to see you on Best Damn Sports Show soon.
You bet, guys. I'd love to come out and do it. I'm not much of a football expert or a hockey expert, but I'd still love to come on and hang out with you guys.
All right, well, we'd love to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
you guys
again.
have a great day.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Big Show in studio.
I got to find my hand after I shook it. It got lost in his hand.
It's amazing. We took a picture with the Big Show before we did the podcast, and we almost disappear in the picture.
I am small. All I had to say is
I am thin.
I'm not a large person. They would just call me Mini Show.
And the amazing thing is that when he's sitting, our studio where we do the podcast is not very big, and he was sitting on a sofa, and Bernie and I are sitting on chairs across from him. And when he's sitting on the sofa, he doesn't look that big. I mean, he looks like a big dude,
but not like
you'd never think that's a 7-foot, 450-pound guy sitting across from us. But then he stands up and he stands next to us, and he swallows you up.
a large man.
Yeah. I think I could have talked to him for another hour.
Oh, man. I had so many more questions I wanted to ask him.
Yeah, no, there was a ton of stuff that we didn't get to, which, hopefully next time he's on, if there is a next time that he's on, we'll ask him. But he was great.
No, I loved it.
Yeah. So there you go. The
Is there
Big Show.
Is there anything more interesting, seriously, than behind the scenes of professional wrestling? There's so much politics and drama and just the way you make it to the top of that profession I just find that fascinating.
Yeah, there were so many cool things that he was talking about, but his relationship with Hogan I found really interesting because it really seems like Hogan real mentored the guy.
Yeah, definitely.
And really was instrumental in who the Big Show is today. And the other thing that just really, really struck me was that he's a Peg Bundy guy.
Yeah. How many people watch Married to Children because of Peg?
I was thinking, I'm like, is he kidding? I didn't know if he was kidding. I'm like, dude, Christina Applegate was on that show back when she was, like, super hot.
Yeah.
And he likes Peg Bundy.
Who knew? Peg Bundy was, like, maybe fourth on the reasons I watched, maybe fifth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I'm glad I got the Saturday Night Live question in because I remember watching that show back in 2000, and, he stole the show. He's so good. And you're wondering to yourself, you're like, oh, when is this guy getting a sitcom? And I think it's going to happen soon. I think WWE is going to give him a movie, hopefully, a comedy.
It should be a
give
comedy.
Him something to do.
It should be a comedy.
Well, he's a funny guy. So that was great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
one
that.
One of my favorite podcast guests.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, Bernie, big week on Best Damn next week. You know who's coming back?
I'm not sure.
Tom Arnold returns to Best Damn.
Best Damn's favorite son returns home.
Exactly. So that should be pretty interesting.
It always is.
I've been emailing him. He is going to the Alabama game.
Oh, is that right?
Saturday, yeah.
Oh, good for him.
So I should have some fun stuff to talk about there. And Rob McElhaney from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. In fact, you talked to him earlier today.
I did talk to him earlier today. He's a big Philly guy. He's excited about the Phillies, excited about the Eagles.
Wild card!
Wild card! Woo! And if you've seen It's Always Sunny, you'll know what that means, which is really might. It's up there with one of the funniest shows on TV.
Just go on YouTube and do a search for Wild Card, and It's Always Sunny, and watch the clip. But that's a funny show. And Jim Brown is going to be here next week. Now, on the podcast next week, I will tell you my Jim Brown story.
I can't wait to hear that one.
Here's the headline. I thought he would punch me in the face when we met the first time when he did the show years and years ago.
Well, hopefully this time it's a better experience.
I think over the years we've reached kind of a mutual understanding. But the first time he was ever on the show back in 2001, he was the first guest we ever had on Best Damn. We did not see eye to eye.
Did you tell me you're a Syracuse guy? That didn't matter?
Didn't really come up. Okay. Didn't really have time to drop that into the conversation, but I'll tell you about that on the podcast next week. And one guest that we were supposed to have this week, but I hear just canceled, but I hope this comes back because Reggie Bush and Kim Kardashian were supposed to be on the show next week. And do you know what she was promoting?
I heard something about her butt, so...
She was going to play the Nintendo Wii. This isn't a joke. This was the pitch that was made to us. Kim Kardashian wanted to play the Nintendo Wii on our show with her butt.
How is that even possible? Where do you... I didn't even understand.
Is that not the most ridiculous pitch you've ever heard?
I don't understand.
And apparently it was serious, but they just canceled.
Well, I have a feeling Reggie Bush didn't feel too comfortable sitting there.
He was like, wait a minute, you're going to do what?
Yeah. Imagine if you didn't know. You're not. And she starts turning around and moving her butt all over the place, and he's like, wow, I'm dating her.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic television.
It would have been. Hopefully it'll happen.
Yeah, let's hope that happens sometime in the future. All right, email address, bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. Send us an email. We'll read it on the air. And
it gets on the show.
Yeah, we read 2 of them today. See what happens? Yes. See what happens, David and Jeff? We read your emails.
Yeah, guys. Way to be. Yeah.
All righty. So until next week, I'm Jason.
I'm Bernie.
Thanks for listening.